What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Football Friday edition of Back Your Play with Q. And of course, as always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. I'm almost saddened this is the potential last Football Friday, but we have our good friend, Ally Miielnicki, who does a wonderful job under the Zensports umbrella. One of the co-hosts for Nothing But Locks podcast. Check him out on Twitter, NBL Podcast. They do a fantastic job. I know she's pumped because her head coach won an award. She would rather be playing on Sunday, but be that as it may, always good to talk to you, my friend. How are you?
Great. I am like you, Rich. I can't wait to Sunday. It is bittersweet because then we won't have regular season or playoff football until way next fall. But hey, there's still a lot of NBA coming up. It was a wild week. College basketball. I'm a college basketball purist, so I can't wait for March Madness. And no football actually gives me time to focus more on college basketball. So looking forward for a good game Sunday.
Yeah, I always joke with my buddies. I said, after Sunday, what typically happens? And they say we kind of reintroduce ourselves to our spouses. So, right, because everyone's kind of gone dark. Not Aaron Rodgers dark per se, but kind of gone dark for a little bit with the football season. But no, I'm looking forward to talking some college and NBA hoops with you as well. All right, so let's get to it. Super Bowl 57, Arizona, right around 6:30-ish or so Sunday. The Eagles, Kansas City. And we talked a little bit last week, Ally, with some of the line movement and the trend, so to speak. And now basically you really got to do due diligence. Everyone's going to be looking at a substantial number of player props. The game itself right now, where are you at? Has your opinion or thought changed on the direction that you're leaning towards in this game? Because you were all over Kansas City. I'm assuming that has not changed in the last week.
Nope. If anything, I'm more confident. The more I dig into this and the more I see a lot of the public money's going toward the Eagles. The sharps betted the Eagles a little bit in the beginning. They've kind of backed off. If anything, they're leaning more towards Kansas City now. The public loves the Eagles, and I understand why. You mentioned all the time the the recent bias. And it's easy to say that because the Eagles in their two playoff games just totally blew out the Giants, blew out the Niners. I know the Niners didn't have a quarterback, but I understand the Eagles just look unpenetrable. And the Kansas City Chiefs, meanwhile, you could say they've kind of quote unquote limped into the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes with that high ankle sprain. But when it comes down to it, Ross, Rich, I just haven't seen the Eagles get challenged with a quarterback at the level of the MVP who just got named Patrick Mahomes. They haven't faced any quarterback of his caliber all season. I don't count Aaron Rodgers in the elite caliber anymore, considering the year that he had. I think that this defense is going to get tested not only by Mahomes, but by Andy Reid. Andy Reid, he's so deadly coming off a bye week. He's had 2 weeks now to prepare it for this team. I think he's looked over all the tape. I think he's going to have the defense ready to contain Jalen Hurts. Most importantly, on offense, I think he's going to find a way to exploit that front seven, to take advantage of that secondary. Hey, the Eagles, they still have a top 5 defense in this league. But if there's one guy in this league that can pick apart defenses when he has 2 weeks to prepare, it's Andy Reid.
Yeah, so a couple of good points you brought up. When you talk about the coaching, I spoke about it and highlighted earlier this week on BYP, where you've got a guy, a veteran head coach, and Andy Reid, that's been there before. He's won it. And it's funny, pardon me, the backstory, right? He had all that success with the Philadelphia Eagles, but yet was never able to get them over the hump. I don't know how much of that plays into Sunday's game, to be honest. But to your point, he is a veteran head coach. He knows how to make adjustments. He's got the pieces in place. Now we're talking about an 85 to 90% healthier Patrick Mahomes. So I don't think mobility will be limited as much as people thought it would be a couple weeks ago. But then on the other side of the coin, you've got a young quarterback in Nick Sirianni. And you really brought up a good point. I kind of want to dive into a little more and illustrate where, let's be honest, that Giant game was over that first series or two. The same could be said about the 49ers game. Now, the reality is the 49ers are still barking about it, right? I mean, just take the L and move on. But we don't know really where the Eagles are at when it comes to this type of level of opponent. Does that make me sway where I'm leaning? Not necessarily, but I'm wondering if this is, let's just say, Eagles aren't getting to Patrick Mahomes. It's a quick 13-3 Kansas City lead, right? Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. They're going down the field. Hurts maybe a couple 3-and-outs. 13-3, 16-3, 16-6, whatever. Philadelphia is faced with a, 4th and 3, 4th and 4 from the 35-yard line, their own 35-yard line. I'm curious to see if that scenario actually plays out, because I want to know where Nick Sirianni's head's at. Is he going to be aggressive? Is he going to play field position? Is he going to coach scared? Andy Reid, we kind of know what he's bringing to the table already. There's no illusions. There's no secrets when it comes to Andy Reid. Sirianni, this is all new for him. This is all new for Jalen Hurts. So I think you might get some jitters early on in this game.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think that if the Eagles have to play from behind, Rich, I don't think they come back. Yes, they fell behind, I believe, 14-0 earlier this year to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville is not at the same level as the Chiefs. If you give Patrick Mahomes the lead, if you give Andy Reid the lead, they're not going to blow it like they did in that AFC Championship game to the Bengals last year. I think that they're going to keep on the gas. And if the Eagles have to play from behind, first of all, if the Eagles have to play from behind, they're going to have to entrust Jalen Hurts' arms. They can't be a run-dominant team if they have to play from behind. So if Jalen Hurts has to throw more, again, we don't even know if his shoulder's 100%.
Right.
And you saw in that game against the 49ers, that first drive, he had a low throw to AJ Brown, who made a great catch. He overthrew Devonta Smith, who really didn't catch the ball, but they said he catched the ball. So I think that if the Eagles if the Chiefs take an early lead, I think that they're not going to look back.
Yeah, I still believe the game's going to be won or lost in the trenches. I really do. And listen, this is a team in the Philadelphia Eagles that have had 70-something odd sacks. That's not by accident. They're really good at getting the quarterback. And we know Patrick Mahomes, what makes him great, I think, is also what hurts him a little bit. His Achilles heel is, I want to play hero ball. I want to run around a little bit like it's a schoolyard, the sandlot. Maybe I try a little too much. I'm also wondering if the Eagles start to get to him and you start to see some creaks in that offensive line and cracks, if he starts to press, if he starts to, again, take some unnecessary, unwarranted risk, because we've seen that in the past with Mahomes. Right. And then conversely, with Jalen Hurts, listen, he doesn't need to go out there and go 20-25 for 288 and 3 touchdowns. He doesn't. I think, and I hate the phrase, but I think he needs to manage the game, play within himself, use his legs as that X factor, that weapon, and really just cut down on mistakes and limit mistakes. Now, I don't know where you're at when we talk about offensive, the caliber of offenses, but I know this, and the numbers don't lie. The Kansas City Chiefs are susceptible inside the red zone. They're giving up about, I think it's about 68% of the time teams are scoring on them. Conversely, the Philadelphia Eagles are at a 68% clip. So we talk about the battle of the line of scrimmage. Eagles get there in the red zone and they're putting up 7 as opposed to 3. Then I think it could be a long night for Kansas City.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you right there. One thing that Kansas City has to do, I think they just can't let the Eagles go into the end zone. And I know that's cliche to say because that's the game plan, but but the minute that the Eagles get within the 20-yard line, then they could exploit the run. They could use Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell. They will get in the end zone with that. Kansas City needs to make a stop early. I think they need to bring the blitz early to Jalen Hurts. Again, force him to throw, force him to let go of it right away, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, and then that's how you're going to win your game.
If I said, give me an X factor on both sides of the ball that would help the path to victory, let's just start with the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you think would be that X factor other than Jalen Hurts?
I think that you have to look at the defense, and I'm looking at Hassan Reddick. If he can get to Patrick Mahomes early, if he can make him shaky, like you said, if he can make him not trust his legs even and not scramble, if they can pin them back and win the field, win the location of the field, I think that they are just going to blow away the Chiefs. And I hate to say it because I'm back in the Chiefs, but Reddick is the key for me.
Yeah, no, and those are fair points in the field position battle. I agree wholeheartedly with you. And then conversely, with the Philadelphia Eagles, not named Jalen Hurts, who's that X factor?
So when I would say for the Chiefs,
I'm sorry, for the Chiefs, because you just said Hassan Reddick. I'm thinking to myself, where are we going with this?
I was I heard Jalen Hurts, and I was like,
Ally, we're third and long. Come on now, let's go.
I know. So for the Chiefs, their X factor, I would actually have to say same thing on defense. Chris Jones, if he can get to Jalen Hurts, if he can make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable, this game is going to be won by which quarterback struggles. And if Jalen Hurts struggles, then the Kansas City Chiefs can put the Eagles in the rearview mirror. If the Patrick Mahomes struggles, there's no way that run game is going to win. There's no way that defense is going to win the game for them. So whatever defense can get to the quarterback first.
All right. I had a couple more sips of coffee. Now I'm good to go. That was a bad series for us. We don't typically have those bad 3-and-outs. All right. So player props. I know there's a litany. I know everyone's, doing their due diligence and research, and people are thinking, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to tie it in with a game in the NBA. All right, whatever. Be that as it may, I'm looking at a couple. I want to
Okay.
throw some at you. You give
Yeah.
me a little insight feedback, and then I want to hear some that you've kind of pointed out. And some of these are going to be, you'll probably sit there and say, Rich, yeah, these are kind of obvious, but I'm just curious, especially the viewing audience wants to know as well. Popular bet, Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. The value right there, -114, -115. I think goal line situation, you almost expect a shovel pass, but how about Kelce anytime touchdown?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're not getting great value. One thing I like when I do player prop bets is the value that I get with them. If you're not getting that much juice on it,
Yep.
I wouldn't bank on it. One thing I know about watching the Super Bowl games the past few seasons, the players you think are going to score are not going to score. If you even remember when Travis Kelce played against the 49ers in the Super Bowl, he didn't have a huge game. I know that they had Tyreek Hill back then. They had a lot of other good receivers. But for me, that's for Kelce. I can see him scoring a touchdown just as much as I can see him not scoring a touchdown. You don't think that the Eagles aren't going to try to double team him
Yep.
as much as you can.
Yep.
So for that one, I would just stay away from.
All right. So then go on that premise, Gainwell rushes over 19.5. I think it's too low, but again, you're looking at -115. I think he's going to have some opportunities to catch ball out of the backfield. And I also think he's going to be able to at least get 6 to 7 touches in this game.
Yeah, I would agree with you right there. Again, it's one of the things where I go back and forth with it, but yeah, I would agree with you there.
All right. Pacheco, receiving yards 16.5.
Ooh.
Now he had 5 for 59 in the AFC title game.
So you would think it's a given. I actually would take the under on that one. If it's that low, I don't know how. Again, the Eagles have a very vicious front seven. I don't know if those screen passes are going to be effective to Pacheco or McKinnon. I would stay with the under on that one.
All right, 2 more for you. 2-point conversion. I like this because you've got 2 aggressive head coaches plus 110. I like the value on that.
Absolutely. And especially if a team is playing from behind, if they fall behind by say 18 points or something 15 points and you need a 2-point conversion, that one's a given to me. I'm taking a 2-point conversion.
How about Gainwell longest rush over 9.5? He had 1 for 17 against the 49ers. And then really in garbage time, the 35-yard touchdown against the Giants. That's 115 -1.
I will take the over on that as well. One thing about the Chiefs, they do struggle against the run on their defense. That's why I think it's important that you have to force Jalen Hurts to throw in this game. I think Kenneth Gainwell will get a long run for definitely over 9 yards. So I would go over with that one.
Is it too logical to say if anyone wins if the Chiefs win, the MVP should be or will be?
It's going to be a quarterback. It's going to be
right. So plus 130. Yeah, plus
Yeah.
130.
Absolutely. I don't, especially if Patrick Mahomes is playing on a high ankle sprain. Jalen Hurts, again, people will be talking about his shoulder, and Jalen Hurts did just lose the MVP to Patrick Mahomes. So I think if the Eagles win, he's going to get an MVP right there.
All right. And then last one for you. I pulled out another one that I actually just saw that I think is actually pretty interesting. Jalen Hurts passing touchdowns under 1.5.
Oh, I'm on that under all day with that one. Again, he didn't have a passing touchdown against the 49ers. So I'm going to go all the way for that one. I think that it's going to be a Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell. I think Jalen Hurts will get a rushing touchdown, but passing, hate to say to AJ Brown and Devonta Smith fans, I don't think he's getting in the end zone through the air.
Interesting. Because a couple guys were tweeting me about AJ Brown yards on first reception, which is under 9.5. I get the sense it might be a slant for 6 or 7 and he breaks a tackle and he picks up 3 or 4 yards. All right. What stands out? What kind of player props were you guys talking about and researching and diving into on Nothing But Locks pod this week?
Sure. So one that I like, again, I'm going against the Jalen Hurts touchdowns. I like Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns. You get plus 140 there. So you get some value. So Patrick Mahomes, he hasn't thrown 3 touchdowns in a game since New Year's Day, but Rich, in 8 of the 17 regular season games that Pat Mahomes played in, he threw 3 or more touchdowns. I think he comes out and explodes this game. Again, I'm not going to bank on the run defense, on the run scheme for the offense with the Chiefs. I think it's going to be up to Patrick Mahomes. I think that he's going to utilize his receivers a lot between Valdes-Scantling, between Tony. You're going to also have Kelce in there, obviously. I think Pat Mahomes throws over 2.5 touchdowns.
Wow. How about your guy, Tony? I think he's plus 15,000 win MVP.
I will never bet anything about Kadarius
Yeah.
Toney.
So watch what happens. He's going to have 5 catches for a buck,
Probably.
2 touchdowns.
Probably.
Right? How about first score, first touchdown?
Oh, see, this one is always one that I love to bet, but I don't ever want to execute it because I'm very rarely right. I think that obviously it depends who's going to get the ball first. Is the Chiefs going to get the ball first, or are the Eagles going to get the ball first? If the Chiefs get the ball first, I'm banking on a receiver. I think Valdez-Scantling is a good play for that one. I also love Sky Moore this game. I mentioned him last week.
Yes.
The rookie really hasn't done a lot all this year. You've seen in the Super Bowls before, just guys that haven't done much all season just explode. What better way for Sky Moore to get his first touchdown of his career than in this game? You have Toney, who's also he was limited in practice all week. He might be a little banged up. Juju Smith-Schuster was banged up 2 weeks ago when they played the Bengals. This is one where I could see Andy Reid just pulling out all the rabbits out of a hat, drawing up a play for the rookie, and him finding the end zone. Anytime that touchdown score plus 900 for Sky Moore. So
okay, I was about to. I saw it for some reason. I saw it as high as 950.
Yeah, probably.
So, okay, let's just go by what you're saying with Patrick Mahomes going off in this game and having the 3 touchdowns and the offense is opening up. If we go by the premise where the Eagles can't play bit from behind and it's a track meet, then it seems to me you're going to bang the over in this game.
I love the under here. I love the under.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that I said that I predict that the final score is going to be about 27-17. I think that the Chiefs are going to get in the end zone plenty. I think that, however, that the Eagles will have trouble finding the end zone. So I'm going to still back the under here.
Man, I'll tell you, I really think you're dismissing that defense. They're going to, I'm telling you right now. Listen, this game to me, and I'll repeat myself, I feel as though it's what we saw a couple of years ago, Tampa and Kansas City, where Tampa was able to just get to Mahomes, and he's still 85, 90%. He's still going to be, I'm curious to see how he rolls out, how he puts some weight on that ankle. And I mean, look, they beat the Giants. Purdy gets knocked out. I know everyone's going to come up with excuses again. Look, the Eagles I like Jalen Hurts. I think the kid's talented and he's a gamer. The team itself, they're just unlikable. And that's not even me being a Giants fan. It's just objectively like, I don't like them at all. And I go back and forth with people. It's almost as though the sentimental pick, you almost want to see Kansas City win because they're just an unlikable team, the Philadelphia Eagles are. But there's something about that that's annoying and frustrating and bothers me that I actually almost kind of respect, because it's the bully mentality, it's the villain mentality, and they've come to embrace it. So any slight on them, any knock on them, i.e. Hassan Reddick not getting a lot of love for Defensive Player of the Year, Jalen Hurts losing out to Mahomes MVP, Sirianni losing out, head coach, I think they're going to use that. And at this point, if you can't get up for this game, you can't get up for this game.
Right.
You better pick a different line of work. But I just feel as though that's all bulletin board material for them. And we're going to see it come out in just nastiness come Sunday.
I would also be more concerned for the Chiefs if I didn't earlier in the year just see them smoke that San Francisco defense. So I know what they can do against good defenses.
You just won't give an inch on this one. All right.
You got to be confident in your pick. Listen, I could be completely wrong. You and I can have this conversation a week from today, and I will eat every one of my words. This is not even my bias. And I agree with you. The Eagles, whether you're a Giants fan or you're not a Giants fan, they're not a likable team. But I think Kansas City's just not getting the respect they deserve. This is their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 seasons. You're not great, and you are elite if you can get to that. And I don't think the Eagles have reached that level.
All
yet.
right. So then for the final time on a Football Friday edition of BYP, we've got this, and we've got confidence level inflated up that the Chiefs rout the Eagles, or deflated.
I'm inflating it. It's going up.
The PSI.
Buy Eagles, buy.
What's that?
I said, buy Eagles, buy.
If they win, like, look,
I'm going to be at a party where there's a lot of Eagles fans. So if they win and I'm
that's what I was going to ask you.
My Daniel Jones jersey, I'm going to hear it all night. So, and my friend Jack Daniels is not going to be.
Wait a second. Hold on. So you'll be rocking a Daniel Jones jersey, and you'll be at a Super Bowl party that has, what would you say, predominantly, what's the percentage of Eagles fans?
So I'm in Los Angeles, so it is mixed, but I would say there's going to be about 30 to 35 people at the party. I'd say probably there's going to be at least 5 or 6 Eagles fans there.
All right. So it's like a little potpourri.
Yeah, it's not going to be
we don't want to put
dominant,
in,
but the Eagles fans that are there are going to be the loudest ones in the whole house. So
yeah, I mean, we don't want to put you in harm's way, right? I mean, we want
Right.
to make sure you're okay to do this.
it's a
next
mix.
week.
There's going to be Cowboys fans, there's
All
going to be Commanders fans there. There's going to be, obviously Rams, Niners. So it's going to be a good mix.
Hey, let me ask you this, and again, Ally Miielnicki joining us from NLB Nothing But Locks podcast, part of Zensports, always kind enough to join us on a Football Friday edition of BYP. Have you guys talked at all about, I guess, odds where future quarterbacks, or I should say odds where some of these quarterbacks potentially might land, right? When we're talking about the, the Derek Carrs of the world or the Aaron Rodgers. I'm trying to think who else.
You have Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's another thing. They're $100 million potentially apart. Yeah. What are your thoughts on, let's just say, Carr, Rodgers, and Lamar Jackson right now?
So I think we talked a little last week. I think Aaron Rodgers stays. I just don't see. I thought that the San Francisco 49ers would have been a perfect location for him. He's already said he doesn't want to go to San Francisco, so he's not going to approve of that trade. Derek Carr, everyone talks about the Texans. I just don't see it. I don't think the Texans are going to give him a deal. If anything, they'll try to draft a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. I can see Derek Carr going to a team like the Colts, going to a team like the Saints, maybe the Panthers, somewhere there. Lamar Jackson, I think Lamar Jackson's out of Baltimore. I think he's going to be a Washington, whether you want to call them Redskins or Commanders. I think Washington's a very good location. I mean, why would you want to stay in the AFC where you have to battle a Justin Herbert or Pat Mahomes, a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, when you could go into the NFC and who's your big competition? I mean, would Lamar Jackson be the best quarterback in the NFC if he went there? Maybe he would be at the top. So if I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm looking at Washington, even Carolina. You have that great defense in Carolina, and you're also in the worst division. I think that Tampa Bay is just going to blow up their team. I wouldn't go there if I was any free agent, but yeah, I would say Lamar Jackson to me is going to be in Washington or in Carolina next year.
Yeah, Washington is one of the teams that I kind of highlighted probably about a month or so ago, right down 95. Got to wait to see what happens with Daniel Snyder selling the team and that group. And they've got some weapons, and I think they cater that offense around him. You guys doing anything before I let you get out of here? You guys hit on any NBA over the last week or so?
We did. We touched on how all the moves affected the NBA futures.
Yep.
Big movement, obviously, with the Suns, Mavericks as well. Lakers took a little bit of a movement, but nothing significant. Nets just fell all the way down with all of their futures. But one thing, Rich, I'll ask you before we sign off, and we talked about it on the podcast yesterday. Do the Suns win the not only the Western Finals, but do they win the NBA Finals? Do you trust Kevin Durant and Chris Paul to stay healthy?
That's a great question. I mean, right now they've kind of jumped over, leapfrogged a couple teams. I think they're plus 460. I don't trust the fact that even when they're winning their 55, 60 games a year and they get to the Western Conference Finals. Now, if you can't do it this year, think about this. You're dealing with Memphis and Denver. Curry's out for Golden State. You've got Booker, you've got Paul, you've got Ayton, you've got Kevin Durant now. It's probably going to take them 15 to 20 games to kind of get acclimated. Then all of a sudden they have to get in the playoffs, and then we'll see if it's a different animal. I don't even believe they win the finals this year. I still think the best team in the NBA ultimately is either going to be Boston or Milwaukee coming out of the Eastern Conference.
I said the exact same thing. Yep.
Yeah. Denver, Memphis, I want to see a little more with those two teams respectively. Memphis is still a young team, but Denver's playing extremely well. I always think it's tough, man. In the NBA, when you have a caliber player like Kevin Durant, who's a perennial all NBA, all-star, future Hall of Famer, and then you jettison him and he goes to another team, different conference. It's going to take 15 to 20 games for these guys to gel, man. And the knock on Paul for so many years is great player, Hall of Fame player, but hasn't won a championship. To me, and I'll throw it back to you. I had this conversation the other day on BYP. I believe the Big Three era in the NBA has ended.
I agree.
I don't.
When has it worked last? It hasn't worked recently.
No, it hasn't. And it goes to show you that in football, you have a real good quarterback, you can be competitive. In the NBA, if you have one or two great players, you can vie for a championship, but it doesn't necessarily mean if you have three of them. I mean, look at the
Right.
Nets. They played 16 games together. James Harden is probably thinking to himself, I knew something you guys didn't know. So to answer your question, I'll never trust Phoenix because I've
Yep.
seen it before. And if they can't get it done this year, I do think Kevin Durant's legacy takes a hit.
Absolutely. It's all right. I thought it took a huge hit once the Warriors won without him. They've won without him twice. Kevin Durant can never say he's won without the Warriors.
Did you guys put any stock in LeBron scoring title?
We mentioned it. I'm not a huge LeBron fan. I think it's great for him. Obviously, he's had the most longevity of any player to play this game and be dominant for as long, but I'm a Jordan diehard. Jordan will always be the GOAT in my opinion.
So you're not a Knicks fan?
No. Not
Wow.
a Knicks fan.
I mean, Jordan just ruined my childhood.
I was a Bulls fan growing up because I do love watching Jordan. Then, I rooted for the Nets. I don't root for them anymore, but in the Vinsanity years, Kenyon Martin, that was my team.
Well, so that's when Jason Kidd, right? They went to back-to-back NBA
Jason Kidd was
finals.
there too. Yeah, that was a great team to watch.
Yeah, Rip Hamilton on that team, right?
Yep, they were stacked. They were loaded.
Amor, yeah, they were stacked. Wow. Going back a couple of years. I'm dating myself now. That's not good. I'm gonna have to have another cup of coffee. All right. NBL podcast. I know obviously you'll be recapping the Super Bowl. And then I'm wondering next week, will you start to look into futures market when it comes to divisional winners or win totals, or do anything with the draft, or you're now just going to focus on college hoops and NBA and a little baseball?
And NFL goes year round. We'll definitely be heavy on NFL, especially coming toward free agency. There's going to be a lot of movement. I think we are heavy on the draft. Also, we do a lot of prop bets for the draft. But we're going to be focusing a lot on March Madness too coming up. Like I said, I'm a big March Madness purist. So I got to start getting totally into my college basketball.
No, we'll hit it next week. I'm always a fan of the guard play come tournament time. There's been so many crazy upsets too, right?
Oh, yeah.
People beating Houston, Rutgers beating Purdue. So it's been crazy. Ally Miielnicki again at NBL podcast under the Zensports umbrella. Give them a follow. These guys crush it. They break down everything. And I tried to get her to just, I want to say, bend a little bit on this hatred of the Eagles, but I got to be honest, it's just endearing to me. So I allow it to happen.
There you go.
All right, listen, put a little coin and some shekels in the pocket come Sunday around 11:30-ish, and we'll talk next week. Always appreciate a couple moments.
All right. Thanks, Rich.